mate. What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right, yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world.
Reaching freedom.
Try to take over the world.
And greatest chaplain in the world, Mr.
Try
Lance
to
O'Neill.
take over the world.
Yo. We are here on a Sunday. How's everybody doing? What is going on, Mr. Chaplain? How are you, sir?
Oh, right off the bat, you glitch. I see how you are. Right off the bat. It's to California and your internet starts sucking.
I'm telling you, it's never a dull adventure here in beautiful Monterey. We are here for Car Week, so traffic and the population exploded because we got visitors from all over the world descending upon this small little area, and it has been bananas. Everything is being stressed to the max. So
did you go to the car show?
I did not. It's going to be all week, so we're going to try to sneak out. One thing I've learned working a regular 9 to 5 is I need to prioritize rest on my off days. So decided to do that this weekend, and then the kids kind of got out here and there. But yeah, we haven't done anything too major yet. Did you guys ever come when you guys were here? Did you ever go to Car Week?
No, we were up at Moffett Field, so it's about an hour to 90-minute drive from where you are. We went down there a couple of times, but it was so funny that whenever my wife and kids, they went to the beach, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to go. I don't know if I've told this story, but I don't want to go. I went with them once or twice, and then we're in Hawaii. We went for Thanksgiving. We were able to go Space Hay and all that. And we went out, and one day my wife was just like, hey, so what do you want to do? We don't have anything going. And I said, let's go to the beach. And she goes, you don't like the beach. I said, I love the beach. She goes, but you never want to go with us. I said, because the beach in California is 72 degrees and the water's like 55. Yeah, I don't want to go. I want to go Hawaii, 85, and the water's like 85. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Yeah, a little bit different in Northern California than it's like. Have you gone up to a Giants game yet?
No. Haven't checked anything out, man. To be honest with you, I'm barely getting my teeth wet here. I went to Pebble Beach a couple of times. Absolutely phenomenal golf course.
Nice.
Hanging out in Carmel a lot. That's an expensive place to live, man. Let me tell you. But other than that, just here is where I'm trying to get acclimated before I start branching out. I plan to do a little bit more when I get more free time, I guess. But man, I don't know. I think I've been up more than I can chew with this whole job thing. It is.
Well, you talk about expensive. It's almost like you could just draw a line from San Francisco down to Los Angeles or even San Diego and say, if you live within 15 to 20 miles of this thing, let's call it the Pacific Coast Highway. If you live within 15 miles of that, you might expect, 4 or 5 times the normal cost of housing for anywhere else, pretty much in America outside of maybe like Hawaii and Manhattan. It's really ridiculous.
I can't, my mind can't fathom. We went to go eat at this Greek restaurant today, and it was $30. I got a gyro, and she got a bowl, and it was $30. Yesterday we had pizza and wings. 7 wings was $20, and then a medium pizza, $27.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. I forgot to tell you this. Now, I don't know how much it costs now, but there's a place. Not everybody likes it because you have the New York pizza snobs, but there's a place out there called Pizza My Heart.
We already go. That is our
great.
Spot. It's a little pricey, but man, that is our spot. My kids.
But you can buy one slice and you're good to go, or the whole piece. Yeah, the whole piece is expensive, but they're great.
Oh man, absolutely fantastic.
We should get them to sponsor us now.
I think we're about I want to say maybe 6-7 minutes right around the corner from it.
Nice.
So yeah, it is. Yeah, it is absolutely amazing. That's probably one of the best pizza spots I've had. Period. East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah. So go next time you're in there, ask for the man and say, hey, if you want to sponsor our podcast, we'll do it for real cheap. because
Hell yeah.
we have such a broad reach.
Listen, man, it's all good as long as I'm here with you. The rest of it, the rest of it is a bonus, man.
Yeah.
I'm just happy. How are things going? You started, you got the groove together. You feeling it yet, or
let's just say this without going into the detail because I don't want to get in trouble with the Army. I do have to get up at 6 a.m. every day again, which the last time I did that consistently was in El Paso at Fort Bliss. I remember not liking to get up that early. I still don't like getting up that early. But this week was eventful for us. My daughter got in a car accident, totaled one of the cars. I got it. USAA gave us a really fair deal on the money. So yeah, so we've already found a second car. Well, now it'll be a third car because we have 4 drivers, so we got to get 2. And I think we're gonna go look my car. So I need a car. We found this guy who's side of the road, a Toyota 4Runner in 06 that has 310,000 miles on it. But I tell you what, that is the nicest 315 actually. The nicest 315,000 mile car I've ever seen. It was clean inside and out. It smelled nice. This guy he's had it the last 4 or 5 years, just impeccable. Mostly freeway miles. So, and for a really good price. So it's like, okay, we're going to get that. And then we're going to look, we were talking about used car new. We're going to go look at some Stingers because I've always kind of liked the Stingers. And we might be, if we can find, we've seen 1 or 2 around that might work. So I think we're going to look at that. But it's not like we have life-changing events such as going to Alaska with love. I just watched Layer Cake yesterday, which was Greg's first big role. It was a Guy Ritchie movie. And so, James Bond. So I saw Alaska with Love. I'm so confused, honestly. How you have, don't get me wrong, I get it in terms of the United States is still the big boy on the block, and Putin wants to be, they're the big boy on the block, kind of. I mean, I still think it's China at this point. They're the bigger boy in the Asia. But how do you have a peace summit without both countries involved? Now, I don't know if you saw this, but the president of, I think it was Cambodia, nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize for what he did with Cambodia and Thailand, which props, right? Probably should get Trump probably should win the Nobel Peace Prize for what he's done between Cambodia and Thailand, and then what he did for Pakistan and India. He literally brought that back from the brink. They were maybe hours away from a nuclear war, which is just crazy to think after everything that's happened in Ukraine, that the nuclear war that was potentially going to happen was Pakistan and India. But how do you have a peace process with the country that was part of the war not even invited? What do you think about that?
I think that's par for the course because Ukraine was never really I guess, considered an equal partner in this conversation.
The Democrats thought they were.
Yeah, but we lost. So let's say elections have consequences. We
are both cynical, right?
Yes.
How much of the money going to Ukraine actually went to Ukraine for military purposes?
Oh, I'm sure they were scheming off top. And this is by no means a glowing endorsement of the blue team, because the blue team is absolutely donezo right now. However, that still doesn't mean that this grifting administration isn't going to try to get everything that it can.
Sure.
And Trump and Putin are what they are. They've always been. So.
Well, how do you think Trump comes ahead with the Putin-Trump relationship if this goes through? Because over the last year, I think we've, especially the last 6 months since Trump really, since he did become the president, Trump has become now, whether it's real or not, Trump has become very cool towards Putin. So the question then becomes, was that or was that actually part of the negotiation? And if Trump is able to get a peace deal, let's go grifter. What does Trump get out of the grifting by pushing for this deal?
Well, pretty much the same thing he's going to get out of Gaza. First choice.
I'm sorry, out of what? I missed that word.
Out of Gaza.
Gaza.
Choice real estate. First choice real estate. Crimea is right there, beautiful, beautiful island property, or right there on the water, which is, that seems to be his prime place for where he likes to put his resorts and stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me that you would hear shortly thereafter that the Dunn Jr. is over there making, deals that have been in place. I mean, but none of this is surprising. This is all exactly what I kind of expected a Trump administration do. It's almost like we didn't have 4 years of him doing it beforehand to know that he's going to fatten his family's pockets.
Well, yeah, we knew that part, but I'm really curious. Like, there's two parts to this that I don't know about. And I don't think any of us know, because, like, realistically, whenever there's a peace plan, you could see Trump, a Trump Crimea, a Trump Black Sea, whatever. But the other part of it is, and this is kind of a two-part, which is Europe is going to have to buy into any peace plan, and Ukraine's going to have to buy into any peace plan. Correct. And if the whole thing of Europe hates Trump, which I really don't think is true, I think they're more pissed off about the status quo being messed up, the chaos theory that we've talked about. They don't like the chaos theory.
I'm pretty sure they dislike them too, but that we can go ahead.
Who cares?
I'm sure.
I mean, like, realistically, what world? I mean, you go in, you start going through world leaders. There's Margaret Thatcher was hated in the rest of Europe. Why? Because she was principled and kicked ass. But what do you think about, like, realistically, if Ukraine says, no, we're not going to accept this, we would rather you cut off funding, and we got our funding from Europe, which kind of happened, versus giving up X amount of land. Now, remember, the land, part of the land, there's a couple different land. The chunk of land in the Crimea that was given up was basically given up on Obama's watch, right? Putin came in, they annexed that part, like 2014, and President Obama basically did nothing, right? Which green-lighted Russia to come in.
I mean, fast forward, he did the sanctions and all that other stuff, which
but even the sanctions weren't really, I mean, what Trump's been doing. Hey, I'm going to do sanctions. Russia, it's the same reason right now why India is kind of on the crap list, because they're like, hey, if you're going to cut us off from oil, there's this big country up north that will give us a pipeline. We'll be able to buy that Russian oil. But what about the rest of Europe? If they don't buy in, how does that go?
Well, I mean, you got to at least find it odd that not even the NATO commander or nobody from NATO is in on these peace negotiations. It's literally just it. I mean, you have.
That's not surprising at all, though.
Well,
here's why. No, that's easy. That's an easy answer. Ukraine is not part of NATO.
Yeah.
So why would NATO be involved?
But Ukraine was petitioning to be in NATO. So here's the issue. Nobody from Europe who it's going to be. We can safely agree that anything that happens to Ukraine is going to directly affect European posturing. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
In terms of America, we really don't have a lot of sway. I mean, we have sway, but it's not going to affect us either way.
But you think Europe should be the third part of the tripartite if they come in? I truly think it should be. I think it should be Ukraine.
It should be. There should be Europe, Russia. If we're going to say the whole America first, isolationist rhetoric that they've been running with the entire game, right? Then this is a European issue. You've already said that Europe needs to pay their fair share, and if Europe's going to foot the bill for anything you agree on, they should have a say so. Like, I think Bill Parcells had a great saying back in the 80s and 90s, right? how you gonna ask me to come cook, but then I can't buy the groceries? It makes no sense. So
Yeah, but again, I think this is because
let me ask you this.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm gonna frame it like this.
Sure.
We know what Trump could potentially get out of this deal.
Yeah.
What does America get out of Russia annexing a third of Ukraine? What does America get out of that? What does the country get?
It's not a third of Ukraine. It's a very small chunk in the grand scheme of things. However, no matter how
take the capital.
No, they're not giving Kyiv.
I know they're not going to give it, but the proposal has an entire third of the eastern bank right outside of Kyiv. I can't see it, but the question still remains: what does America get? Even if it's only a sliver, what does America get out of this?
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what that land is. I'm trying to see because I hadn't. Again, what I've seen wasn't that. Senator on potential ceasefire. Proposed Donetsk and Luhansk regions,
which is what they were fighting over. They've been giving it back and forth. Russia took it over. Ukraine regained it. They've been kind of fighting back.
Well, that's the part that was occupied by Russian forces during Obama, and then Crimea Russian, which annexed Crimea in 2004, also is reportedly insisting on formal recognition of its control over the peninsula. Parts of Zaporizhzhia and Kherson, Russia claims it annexed in 2022, only partial control. Potential Ukrainian gains would be the Kursk region. Parts of Zaporizhzhia and Kherson. Hold on, let me check. What would the total difference in land gained be for both Russia and Ukraine? Can I just say I love talk to text and AI because you can generally get pretty good responses.
Is it up?
So I don't see anything, but the Donetsk and Luhansk would be approximately 53,000 square kilometers.
There it goes.
Crimea 20. Yeah, but that's not. I mean, when you zoom out,
that's the potential land gain from this peace plan that was submitted.
Okay, let me look up Ukraine itself and see how big it is compared to. And I could absolutely be wrong, but yeah, Ukraine. I wish it was in English. Crimea. Let's see. There's Ukraine. There's Kyiv. Okay, so that'll be. Well, with how big Ukraine is, yeah, I mean, from what you had up there, it looks like a good eighth of the country, but that's still a significant amount. I would hope that's not the case, but a big problem with this whole thing is it goes back to, historically, you always have this type of argument. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that was the argument that Hitler used to looking at Ukraine's natural resources. Oh, is that yeah?
So that blue
is that where?
That dotted line is the contested peace area talks.
Russian controlled area. Yeah,
trying to get right. So everything to the right of that is what Russia's saying belongs to them. And
of course.
We can
when you see something that says it's worth $3 to $4 trillion,
So when it makes sense for them to not to ask for it, but that doesn't make why would Ukraine even consider that kind of a deal? And two, if I'm going to, think about the disrespect, right? I am the president of a sovereign nation who's been at war for, 4 or 5 years strong. How dare you try to broker a peace deal on my behalf and not include me? That is just.
Okay, so You said what was the first part again? You said 1 and 2. What was 1 again?
No. Just the just being the leader of Ukraine.
Right. No,
As
I get that. That's actually a fairly easy answer. The easy answer is U.S. and Russia are big boys, and Ukraine is a little side nothing. I mean, it shouldn't be. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying that's the thought process, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing in World War II when you had, the Soviet Union, the U.S. and Great Britain. They all got together. They didn't include the French. They didn't include anybody else. The governments that were in hiding or in exile or anything like that, because they were like, hey, we're the threes putting bodies on the line. Why would it? Oh, that was what you said. The first one was, why would Ukraine accept this deal?
Yeah.
The only reason would be because this war has been going on for so long. They have essentially lost most of a generation, a large percentage of a generation of males, which is, you won't see it immediately, but you'll see that over the next 40, 50 years. That's where you see that. And when you have these, you saw it in Russia, World War II. I mean, they lost 20 million people during World War II, civilians, and it kneecapped them for a generation or more. That would be probably the only reason Ukraine would say, fine, we've got to get this over. We're just losing too many people. But I do think I don't think it's strange that they're not including Zelensky. I think it's wrong. I don't think it's strange though, because again, if you had something going on between, let's say China and Taiwan, if China decides to pull the trigger, pun intended, and go after Taiwan, and the U.S. comes in and says, hey, we need to have a deal here in place. Are they going to invite the president of Taiwan? Heck no. Nope, they're not. Should they? Absolutely. But they're not going to. I think it's wrong just in terms of the global perception of it. But again, I'm going to be really, it is interesting though that they are meeting in Alaska. I think that's very interesting. Trump has actually shown that he's strangely pretty good with foreign policy, probably better than we thought. Now, I know your argument is, what has he gotten out of it? But again, when you're talking about India and Pakistan, do you discount what happened in India, Pakistan, and Cambodia and Thailand?
The Trump administration had nothing to do with that.
They absolutely did.
They put their name on it. No, he didn't. He came in at the 11th hour, threatened to put tariffs on them if they hadn't stopped. But they were already brokering a peace deal through the EU.
Not India and Pakistan. And no, and the Thailand and Cambodia, they came back and they basically, why would, if there was
like the administration claiming that they stopped the Rwandan suicide. I mean, the Rwandan civil war. It's like, you can't just because you put your name on something doesn't mean you're responsible for it. You can't come in at the last second and be like, hey, cut it out, or else we're going to get it. If both already in the process.
If you have, I don't know though, because India and Pakistan, they even said like, hey, we were on the path. We both were nuclear, and the Trump administration came in and sprayed both sides down with water like two rabid dogs and said, stop it. And they both went, well, okay. I mean, there's some real value in that, even if it's 11th hour. However, well, we can have different opinions, but when it comes to Ukraine, again, I do think that war, we either need to be in or out. You know what I mean? We either need to say we are part of the deal to get this done and finished and stop it, or else we are just hands off. And you want to do sanctions, fine, do sanctions. But I'm glad that neither the Biden administration nor the Trump administration committed troops officially to that. I do think it's been a mistake in terms of how many munitions we have sent to Ukraine, just in terms of our own readiness. We have not. You don't give your neighbor your car for them to use if you don't already have a car in the driveway. You don't say, "Oh, well, I'm going to get a new car in 6 months, so here you go. I'll let you use my car. Now you're stranded." Now, hopefully, you can still get to working on. I'm not happy with how that all broke down, but I mean, we'll see.
Well, the plan was solid. It just got ended when the current administration picked in. But yeah, the plan was solid. They had a way to yeah. So there was munitions plant, I believe Indiana or Illinois something had picked up the contract to create more munitions to replace the ones that we were sending over to Ukraine. So it was twofold. Hey, we're selling these guys munitions, and then two, we're also creating jobs, because now these factories get to create new munitions. But when the new administration came on, they was like, "Hey, you know what? Nah, we're not going to do that. So don't worry about those jobs." And
did they do it in terms of, hey, we need to actually look at these contracts and see that they're legit?
No, it was.
Or did they just cancel the contracts?
It was a part of the whole efficiency surge that everybody was.
So again, look at it. Okay.
So I mean, it was, but it fell under the Build Back Better plan that was, Biden's, economic policy. And when new voters got in, he was like, "Yeah, no, anything that has to do with that, we're gonna cut it." So I mean,
yeah, well,
that's how it
considering the inflation that was involved. Speaking of arms, one of the Tom Clancy books, if not several of the Tom Clancy books, have stories about how I believe it was the very first one. No, not the first one. It wasn't Hunt for Red October, but the one that was the first one that was made into. No, Hunt for Red October was first, and then the second one, I believe it was, where you meet Mr. Clark and Dingo. They go down to South America, and they're dropped in, and it might have been Patriot Games. They get dropped into the cartel drug thing, and halfway through they get cut off, and of course the bad guy goes in and he blames Jack Ryan. But that is something that Clancy hit a few times, is the U.S. military going in and going after the cartel. If you are serious, if you're an American administration that is serious about the war on drugs, now, whether you believe the war on drugs should happen or not, or I believe the war on drugs should happen or not, if you are serious about going in because you believe the cartels are terrorist organizations, which I think is fair to say, whatever the broad term of terrorist organization, I'm not going to ask if you good idea. I'm going to ask, what does Mexico do the first time we go in and drop some bombs on a cartel compound? They can't do anything, right? Now they're going to be ticked off. I love that. What's her name? Feinbaum or no, that's the football guy. What's her name? The Mexican president, something bomb.
I can't remember.
Is it Scheinbaum?
I'm not sure, but I'm thinking about it, right? There is going to be a line that is going to get crossed, right? And after a while, people are going to say, "Okay, enough of the shit." And I think bombing into sovereign nations without their authorization or their approval is probably that line. I don't know who is advising this administration. I don't even know who's running this administration at this point. It's a bunch of people out to get their own things across. But yeah, that is probably the last red line he can cross internationally without and oh Lord, did I lose you?
Oh, did I hit a button? I think that was me. I clicked on a button. Sorry.
There we go. So I think that is
there we are.
Oh, we got the screen close up. No, I think that's the last line that he can cross to essentially make America an official pariah. Because
Does he care?
That's the thing though. He doesn't. But eventually, and like I said, those members in Congress, those they have to answer for a post-Trump country. Like somebody's going to have to answer for these policies when they come into effect. And Trump is not going to be here. Him and his family are going to ride off into the sunset with their great deals that set them up for generations to come. And
wait. You're saying that Ivanka Trump is not going to be the presidential candidate in 2028? Is that what you're saying?
I think after the effects of the policies of this administration finally take hold, we are going to look back on this administration and this time in American history with completely different eyes, right? And it won't be half the country split. It's going to be more like 90-10, like, hey, my bad.
I think at most it'll be 60-40 at most. There's just too many. There's just too many people that there's those people who are MAGA, okay, and then there's those people like me who aren't MAGA but cannot look at almost anything in the Democratic Party's platform and agree with it. So that's where it's almost what we've talked about before. The 47, what Romney talked about, the 47%. And I think that's still going to be true. The 47% though always matters about where they vote. So we can come back to Tom Clancy, but that 47% comes back to this. Right now, you've got the Democrats absolutely freaking out in Texas about this gerrymandering and actually leaving the state. And then the governor, Abbott, has gone to, I believe, the FBI and said, help me track these people down because they, this is part of what their job is. And if they're not going to be here. And then one of the I believe it's one of the Texas senators, I think it's a state rep, has filed lawsuit that said, okay, if you're going to actively not show up to work, that means you are abandoning your seat and you lose your seat, which is a really, really interesting, I'm sure it's a very, very interesting legal. Now, I actually trust the Supreme Court to know. No. I'm just saying, I trust the Supreme Court on this one to actually, I don't know what the rules would be. I have no idea it'd have to be what the state constitution says. I don't think you can just kick somebody out of Congress, even a state Congress, just because they didn't show up to work. I don't.
Not only is it so, it is absolutely illegal. Like the
is
fact
it?
that
I don't know.
The fact that the governor petitioned the FBI to capture Democrats and bring them back to Texas, and
but
then
they've done that before.
And then and it was illegal then. And the reason they didn't do it is because it was illegal. The Democrats ended up going back under the pretense of what is it, bipartisanship, but we realized that never happened. And it's so here's the thing, man.
Ooh, lots of things there from that. I didn't see it.
Just kind of popping. Yeah, I'm about to pop them up now. A lot of it is like, so we talked about this a couple of years ago, right? We talked about it in Georgia when they were purging the voting rolls and redistricting. I said, hey, this is just a template. They're trying to see what they can get away with. It's gonna get bigger. You said, oh no, no. They do this all the time. Both parties do it.
Both parties do.
Right, what they do. And then I said, no, this is different. And you said, no, let's just wait and see. So we waited to see. More red districts have planted the seeds, and now that they have control, they're trying to take it to the next level. And I'm going to tell you, like I told you then, this is not a good idea. Here's what happens.
Agree.
Gerrymandering, right? The way they're trying to do it, they're trying to essentially purge blue districts, right? Or consolidate all the blue districts to create a more diverse red district. And that is, it's not illegal because Congress is really fell asleep on the wheel in dealing with this, but it's just they're setting it up to where you're putting yourself in a bad position. You cannot look at this with honest eyes and say, "Hey, this is good for the Republic in any way, shape, or form." Like
no, I agree with. I absolutely agree with that. But I will say this. But here's my argument: is that I went and looked this up. I said, what are the worst gerrymandering states? And I read an article, and it said, here's the 12 worst ones. Guess how many were Republican? Guess how many were Democrat?
I tell you what, 9-3,
6-6,
6-6.
It went right through. Utah. The worst one was Utah for Salt Lake City because they split Salt Lake City up. So basically, everywhere else except Salt Lake, they cut Salt Lake in a way that is going to be Republican for the most part. But at the same time, Utah as a whole votes 65 to 70% Republican. So the way they've done it, if it was just Salt Lake on its own, you'd have one blue and the rest would be, red. So you could kind of understand there. But there was Illinois, there was Dallas, there was Houston. Those were Democrat ones. And I saw an article that somebody on Twitter, one of the conservative or somebody was arguing the reason that the Democrats are so ticked off about this is because they've already gerrymandered everywhere they can. They've already done Illinois, New York, California, all this and this. And Texas is the one place that, like, if this gave permanency to the Republicans for Texas, is kind of like what's happening in California. If you look at California, it's tough because, again, a large percentage of California is Democrat. But once you get off of that PCH and you get further east, it becomes much more conservative. It's the same reason people in Eastern Washington and Eastern Oregon feel completely left out because they're going, we don't get any representation. We're farmers and conservative and hillbillies and cowboys and whatever. And everybody that comes out of Oregon and Washington, it's just these far left hippie dippies. And so why can't we have representation? It's why, again, we've seen kind of that movement that won't go anywhere, but to split Oregon and all that. But I don't like.
Yeah, what that article probably failed to mention was every time the gerrymandering was done, it was done probably after a census, right?
I don't know. You're right. I don't believe it was mentioned.
I will wait for you to research and we can come back to it. You will not find, even when the Republicans did it, you will not find a blatant mid-decade redistrict. It didn't exist. You have Texas officials on record this week literally saying, hey, if we don't do this, Texas is going to lose these seats. And we don't want Texas to turn blue.
Oh, of course.
We have to do that. So
wait, are you saying politicians are arguing about politics?
No, I'm not saying politicians. What I'm saying is politicians are brazenly and openly saying they're going to break the law, and it ain't shit you can do about it. It just is what it is.
It's not illegal. Okay, this goes back to my argument. It's not illegal if now I got it. If the Supreme Court says it's not illegal, and you can say, well, hey, it's been illegal for how long? It's not going to be illegal anymore. And I get it. But like you've said, the blue team lost. I said at the end of 2019. I said when you remember when RGB died, and the Trump administration said, well, we don't care what happened at the end of the Obama administration with Gorsuch. I think it was Gorsuch, right?
It may have been, but yeah, where they
stonewalled him. Yeah. And the Trump administration said, we've got the Senate. We are pushing through who we want to push through. Right. And I said, and a lot of the blowback was, this is going to hurt the Republicans for a long time. People aren't going to vote for Republicans because of stuff like this. And I said, I would trade the White House for that Supreme Court justice, because the White House is 4 years.
Yeah, you lost it for 4 years, but the
Yeah.
SCOTUS
that's 30. That is one dude in there who's a conservative for 30 years. And to me, that was worth it. But you know, again, it's all wrong. I agree that it's wrong, but it's just as wrong in Texas as it is in California and in Illinois and in New York. I don't think gerrymandering is the right thing to do. I think it's kind of a load of crap. But if one side's going to do it, I can't really argue when the other side does it. And we're at the point right now where the Republicans are doing it when the Democrats have done it in other places too. So
by the end of this administration, you are going to be so far radicalized. It is going to drive you crazy.
I'm going to be radicalized, or who's going to be radicalized?
You are, because
what do you mean?
It's after a while you're going to be like, all right, cool. I can't justify it. All right, so I can always justify if it's something that is against Democrats, against leftist thinking, because this is the frustration I have with this whole. Hold on, this is the issue of the nation. Go ahead, I'll let you finish, but yeah, go ahead.
This is the frustration I have with all of it, the whole big enchilada. There's not a freaking conservative in the House or the Senate that is doing anything to represent conservatives. There's MAGA, there's bend the knees Republicans, there's far leftist Democrats, and there's Democrats that are being pulled to the left. There are the Tea Party, whatever, great. They did nothing because it was easy to come out and say, oh, we're a bunch of conservatives in 2010 when you don't have any control of anything. We're going to be conservative. We're going to fight for conservative values. That's great when you can't do anything about it. But now you said it right the first time. Democrats are beefs no matter what. Yeah, I have said right from the start, because I had people say, how can you vote for Trump? Right? How can you're a conservative? How could you vote for Trump? Well, when one is a little bit further right than the other one is further left, I'm always going to go with the one that's further right, because politically that's at least a little bit more in line with my thinking. Trump is not a leftist. He's not far left. I think that Harris would have definitely been left of Trump. I think that's an easy argument to make.
Here's the thing though, right? And
I will double and triple down against leftists. Yes, that absolutely. I will double and triple down against the left.
Two things that don't sync with that, right? So you can sit back and say, okay, well, Kamala Harris and Democrats have gone extremely left and this, that, and the other, right? And you say, well, I voted for Trump. Okay, cool. Initially, that makes sense. But being a principled conservative, being a believer in the Constitution, you cannot look at the blatant disregard for the law and the rules of democracy and say that, hey, I can vote in conscience. Because at this point, if you say, well, I'm still okay with it, then what did the Constitution mean? So now we're just at the point to where the Constitution was the end all be all governing body of the nation. Now it's just a matter of, oh, we only care about the rules unless they affect us. Now it's whatever. I don't really care so much about the rules. It's not so much about the rules. It's about how it affects my lifestyle. So that is where this administration, and I told you when Trump won the election, I said, we are going to see a reckoning with election, because they are going to push the levers to see what they can get away with. And it's going to be interesting to see what the nation allows, right? For the longest time, we talked about, congressmen and women would be patting their Bibles and their constitutions and, brag about how they read it. I leave this on my nightstand right next to my Bible, and this is the love, because the fear was the Democrats will be the ones to pervert the Constitution, right? So now what you have on the right is a pure manifestation, not even a pure manifestation, a blatant challenging of the Constitution almost weekly at this point. And instead of people challenging it, conservatives, Republicans, hell, MAGA, instead of anybody, all these constitution loving, don't tread on me babies, right? Nobody gives a damn. So it essentially boils down to what people have been saying their entire lives. It's not about the Constitution, it's about the power and the lifestyle. That's why I said I was never worried about Trump. It's the people behind Trump. That's what I was concerned about. And it's gonna continue. We're gonna see a lot because there's no way in hell you can look at this and see the blatant abuses of the Constitution and say that you're okay with it if you're principled in believing that the Constitution is the ruling body of the land. You just can't.
Okay, so hold on. This goes back to the perception, the mirror theory, right? We could put a mirror between us. We could both look at the mirror and see things in a very, very different way, right?
Yeah.
And so when you look at the Constitution and you say what's constitutional and what's not constitutional, and what's against the law and what's not against the law. Now, before the Constitution was amended, slavery was legal. And then it became illegal. The Constitution got changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
For 2 centuries, homosexuality was basically illegal until the Constitution was changed by SCOTUS, and it wasn't anymore. Now, whether you agree or not on the different changes when SCOTUS comes out, abortion was not acceptable legally until Roe v. Wade in 1973.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about these things, you say, well, this is blatantly unconstitutional or this, whatever. That is part of what the challenge is, because you can say it's unconstitutional, but if the Supreme Court, now what you can disagree with the Supreme Court, I understand. I follow on Substack definitely a left-leaning blog that goes over what the different when the Supreme Court comes out with its verdicts.
Yeah. And
he's not happy, he's clearly not happy about certain things. And so when the Constitution changes based on the Supreme Court, it's no longer unconstitutional. And you and I can sit here and say, well, I don't agree with the Supreme Court. One of the things for me, I've said this before, where something that the Democrats did, and I can't give you an example right now, but I know in the past I've like, how is that constitutional? And the Supreme Court upheld it. I went, oh, well, I guess they know more than I do because I'm not a lawyer, right? But Thad writes right there, he says, the Constitution for white men has always protected them and their interests. You're not under attack. I don't claim to be under attack. I think that some of the things with this country early on, people can say, well, this country was wrong right from the beginning. Slavery is the obviously easiest one to say we were wrong right from start with slavery. But I will push back and say, when this country was formed, slavery was the norm. Every country in the world had slavery. It had not been banned in any country. The first country to really make any type of, now there had been slave revolts, of course, and fine. Haiti was one of, had a major revolt, and then they kind of got sold out by France to the U.S. and et cetera. With the, we've talked about that before, and the revolt was fine. Hey, I'm kind of surprised there weren't more revolts in the South. If you put yourself in that position and you say, what would I have done back then, or if I was in that position, I'm amazed that there weren't more slave revolts. Honestly,
it wasn't from lack of trying. It really wasn't from lack of trying. Let's just say that it was a lot more difficult.
Sure. But that's how slavery has always been. I'm teaching my kids right now. When you go back and you look at, the early civilizations, Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Indus Valley, and you look at the earliest form of writing, cuneiform, they used that as basically record keeping. And what were they record keeping? Trade, wheat, etc., etc. Slaves was one of those big ones. So it tells you that man has enslaved other men all the way back throughout history. And I asked the kids, I said, okay, so why, this is one of the questions that we're talking about, is why did people who were living out in the Neolithic, in these Neolithic area, right after prehistory, and you start having these writing, why did they start moving from these little outposts out on their own and start moving into the city? And they were like, well, because of trade and because of jobs. So they're thinking modern way, right? Oh, I can go into the city and get a job. Like, and then I kind of hate what else? And I'm doing the Socratic method of, well, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and I have my gang of 15 people and I come into your village and it's you and your family and there's only 6 of you or 5 of you, how hard is it for me to come in and kill the leaders and then take the rest of you into slavery? Oh, yeah, that would be pretty easy. I said, but what if me and my 12 guys, we come in and your entire group there, the rest of you, now there's 20 of you all together. How hard is it? And they're, oh yeah, you wouldn't do that. Right. And so there's protection in numbers. So slavery has been around forever. So when this country was formed, slavery was absolutely the norm. You and I both know the first slave owner in America was a black man, right? And even the Constitution, when people say, well, the Constitution was racist because they only counted black men as 3/5, well, that was to actually keep the South from having too much power, because they wanted to count the slaves even though they had no voting rights. Okay, so now fast forward in 1965. Well, first you have the 14th Amendment and you have the 15th Amendment. Now fast forward to 1965. So I understand the historical side of it. Doesn't matter what's done. The white man's always going to take care of the white man. I get that argument. But that is true of everywhere throughout history. The French, the Gauls took care of the Gauls. The Germanic tribes took care of the Germanic tribes. The Ethiopians took care of the Ethiopians. The Malis took care of the Malians. It doesn't really matter where you are. If you're in power, you take control of yourself and worry about yourself. That said, I would like to hope, I seriously hope, and I do think this, I think where we are today is the most advanced, the most racially understanding, especially in America, where we are. I think you still have, of course, some racial tension, but it is played up for effect more than anything else. It's kind of like the woman and the wage gap thing, right? If I'm a company and I can legitimately hire, let's say I have 10 employees, why wouldn't I hire 10 women if I could pay them 70 cents on the dollar compared to guys? So I just think we get lost in the weeds sometimes with a lot of this. I know history that, and I acknowledge that. I acknowledge the history of Black people in America has not always been great, and that's why I say, if you KJ and I, we've talked about this. If you took Martin Luther King from 1962 and brought him to today, he'd be doing backflips saying, "We did it. We made this is the." Oh, you don't think so? I do.
No,
Okay.
no. That's a generous revision of quotes late life revisions. Matter of fact, by the end of his life, he absolutely loathed the way that they did it, and in fact, he would tell anybody who would listen, like, "Hey, we made a mistake," and I gotta.
You think if you brought Martin Luther King to 2025, he would look at where we're at racially and say, "Holy crap, we haven't done anything. We're basically, there was no value here."
Where do you think we are what do you think we are differently now than we were in 1965 as a society? How have we improved, right?
I think the vast majority of people don't really care about race. I just don't think the average person cares that much.
I can agree with that. The average person, sure, I can agree with you. The average everyday American, as long as you're a good person, which was no different than 1965 when Time magazine would do their interviews with people on the street. A lot of the younger generation, they would interview the I guess the generation alphas of their time, and they would ask them, how do you feel about integration? How do you feel about living with Black people? And one of the common consensus they received was, hey, as long as they're good people, as long as they raise their family right, they don't bother us, we don't have an issue with it. As long as they go about their life, right? You see a lot of that now. But some of the similarities you saw in the late 60s that you're seeing now is some of the same issues. Black people still struggling for voting rights, still having those same issues. You still have that Christian nationalist set fighting and trying to define what purity is. Just this week, our Secretary of Defense restored a Confederate statue, which depicted an absolute lie of slavery. And
I saw a little blurb on that. What was? Hey, we only have about 4 minutes. Can you hit that real quick?
Yeah. So long story short, his reasoning for putting it back up is because he believes that history should be protected and restored. The only problem is the SecTef don't know the fucking history. That statue was put up in 1914, right? That was not a historical stat. That was a Jim Crow era artifact, which a lot of the Confederate statues are, right?
What was? I'll go look it up later, but I don't know what it was.
Not this, so we can get to our final thoughts. So a lot of the similarities and a lot of the issues that the leaders of the time in the 60s were trying to come to contention with is it's bigger than we shall overcome, right? It's a lot deeper, it's a lot bigger. And as long as you are attacking the power, as long as you are attacking the power structure, there is going to be problems in this country. And whether you agree with it or not, whether you believe it or not, the white male has been the dominant power figure of this country since its inception. And those in power do not cede power willingly. It has to be taken. And what this administration is doing, it is reinforcing itself and putting people who look like them and believe what they believe in a position to maintain that power structure for another generation. That's why the policies are so critical. Well, I mean, we can get into that a little later. Yeah.
But isn't that true of every administration though? Like the Obama administration put people into place that believe similar to what the Obamas believed, right? That's normal.
Yeah, but what happened during the Obama administration? He was blocked by the power structure, so he wasn't able to implement his policies. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of it. He was there, but even when you get put in there, the power structure is so that, hey man, you can't get your point across. But yeah, you got it. Last 90 seconds.
Well, we've had this argument lots of times about the Obama administration and their super majority that they wasted on. In my opinion, they wasted on Obamacare. But last thought, real quick for me. I'm going to acknowledge something that Thad said. Thad, you're absolutely right. I don't live it. I don't know. I'm not trying to speak on behalf of black people. I would never put myself in that position because I don't know. That's KJ's. He is the representative for all black people.
Like the king of the blacks.
Yeah, week. I can only come at it from a historical, try to be unbiased, but you're right. I don't live it. I don't pretend to. KJ, you got the last 50 seconds.
Hey man, this is the fastest 60 seconds, fastest 60 minutes on TV,
right?
Man. We'll see you guys next week for another hot 60. Man, all right.
Next week might be a travel on the road because my son's got a soccer tournament. So if I'm driving back, it's going to be interesting.
Let's get it. All right, man. Good luck. Have a great week. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you guys same bat time, same bat channel. Next week, we'll holler at you. All right.
Gee, mate, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right, yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world.
Preaching freedom
Try
of
to
conscience.
take over the world.
And greatest chaplain in the world, Mr.
Try
Lance
to
O'Neill.
take over the world.